Raising venture capital is no easy task. Many variables need to come into play and align for a round of funding to happen. We've covered extensively what a pitch deck should have and what your financials should look like and what they should answer. But today we're going to talk about the deal breakers. This is the stuff that, ourselves included, didn't know was working against us until it was too late. Let's do it. Number 1, incorrect founding team. I have this theory that the founders should have the capacity to generate the first $100,000 of revenue for the company without needing any external talent. If there's a skill you're missing to get your company to revenue, then that person should be your co-founder, not your employee. Imagine a biotech company started by 2 founders with a business background. They're raising money to hire a scientist to join them. It doesn't make sense, does it? Well, the same applies for a tech company, an app or a website. Trying to raise money to recruit a CTO. It makes no sense, and I see plenty of founders trying to get away with it. If you are a tech company, then at least one of the co-founders needs to be technical. Period. Don't underestimate distribution either. Who is going to sell this company or product or business? Is any of the founders a growth marketer, or do any of them have a strong sales or contact network? Once again, critical requirements for this company to succeed. Can't you hire that talent? Well, maybe you can, but you'll be paying market salaries for it. A market salary for a CTO is $150,000 or more. If you hire a development agency or a marketing agency, they'll be paying market salaries to their employees, and then they'll charge a profit margin on top of that. Nobody wants to pay market costs for developing or marketing a startup, and that's why having these skills on the team is absolutely necessary. Number 2, baggage. A complicated cap table can also become a deal breaker. The cleaner your company, the better. Common problems on a cap table are a significant percentage of equity owned by somebody who is not active in the business, no vesting agreement, so between the founders. We've actually made a whole video about that. Other problems we see are debt. Nobody likes debt on your balance sheet, especially if you need capital to pay it off. If you already have an operating business, consider leaving that behind and starting a new corporation, especially if the product that you're building is drastically different from the previous one. Number 3, raising money to survive. Nobody wants to pour money on a sinking ship. The reason why you raise capital should be to scale, to grow faster, not to save your business. I have tried to raise money with short runways, and every single time, I failed. You could say that investors can just smell the fear. If your company is struggling, don't consider raising capital as your first solution. Raising money is an all-in bet. The CEO will need to dedicate most of their time to the round and inevitably spend less time running the company. Are you willing to bet in your ability to raise capital versus your ability to grow and salvage the business with revenue? Number 4, crazy founder salaries. I've seen financial models with a $300,000 salary allocation for the CEO. That's not how it works when you're using somebody else's money to grow your company. You are expected to take a way below market salary at the early stages. To give you a reference, when we did 500 startups, myself and my co-founders, we lived in the Bay Area for a few months, and the salary for the founders was $30,000 a year. It sucks, but we had a long-term bet in the business, and it eventually paid off. Number 5, vanity metrics. Signups, app installs, beta users are all vanity metrics. They don't mean anything, and if you're using them, it's either one of 2 reasons. 1, you don't know better, and 2, you don't have better metrics to show. Either way you slice it, it's a red flag. Signups are irrelevant. What matters is monthly active users, or revenue, or conversion rates, or retention rates. Metrics that paint a picture of how much your customers love the product and how much it's essential for them. Number 6, not understanding your KPIs. You need to know your KPIs by heart. You need to live and breathe those numbers every single day. If you're tracking them correctly, there's no way you haven't memorized them already. Now, knowing which your KPIs are is no easy task either. In the early stages of Slidebean, we would have thought that the number of presentations created by each user would be a core metric for us, and we were wrong. Most companies only make 1 or 2 versions of their pitch decks, so it's not about the number of presentations. It's more about understanding of our platform and how many times they share that deck. Number 7, distractions. Investors expect your complete dedication to the business. No side hustles, no other gigs, just growing this company. They are betting their money on this product or service, period. While a CEO trying to run multiple companies is not as common, what we do see with particular frequency is pitch decks that try to focus on 3 or 4 products at once, a suite of services, if you will. And that is wrong. In the early stages, you don't have the capacity to build more than one product. There's just no way to do it unless you have tremendous resources and a very large team. If you have other ideas about how the company could evolve, you should certainly talk about them, but know when to talk about them. For example, the problem solution statement in your pitch deck should talk about your core product and nothing else. These added features, these concepts, or these satellite products fit very well on your go-to-market slide, for example. You can draw a roadmap of the near future, significant releases, milestones in your users, and then draw a long-term format and talk about those other ideas briefly. This helps investors understand what you're focusing on now, and it shows that you have new ideas for the future. Remember, investors expect a 15-slide deck. You can stretch that to 18, maybe, but no more. And don't forget the balance. In that 15-slide deck, there's one slide about the problem, there's one slide about the solution, there's one slide about the business model. Doing 3 slides, just talking about these future plans, breaks this delicate balance of what investors want to see about your company today. In the end, your deck should talk about your overall vision, yes, but it needs to focus on the parts where you have the most visibility. Where is this money that you are raising now going, and how does it get the company to that next stage? These pitch decks are our bread and butter, by the way, and if you need any help, you know where to find us. Last but not least, not enough money. Speaking of the next stage, the money you raise must also get your company to a tangible milestone, a fundable milestone. If you raise $250,000 to build the product, but you need to raise an extra $500,000 to launch it, you are in a bad position. It's absolutely a red flag. You need to raise enough money for the next milestone. Usually that might be a round of funding, but it might also be profitability. For a future round of funding, do some research on the KPIs needed for the future rounds of company in a business like yours. For example, in a SaaS business, Series A investors often expect at least $1.5 million in annual run rate and an annual growth rate of at least 3x. Those are the metrics for a SaaS Series A, and if your seed round doesn't get you there, you might end up in a weird limbo where you're too big for seed investors, but too small for Series A investors. I've seen companies go out of business because they weren't prepared for that limbo. If you need help solving your pitch deck or projecting that use of funds, take a look at our Founders Edition plan. It includes every single one of the financial model templates that we've built. It includes our pitch deck templates and analytics for your slides to know which slide your investors are spending the most time on. It also includes office hours with our team, including a monthly strategy call with me. More recently, AWS joined our suite of tools so that any seed stage startup can get $5,000 in AWS credits and 1 year of AWS business support and 80 credits for their self-paced labs. Link in the description. We'll see you next week.